So I'm going to just start the recording now just so that we can capture this for those that weren't able to make it. So again, good morning, good afternoon, welcome everybody. Thank you again for joining in this awesome webinar that I'm really excited to share with everybody. I'm going to roll right into the slides, and the way we're going to structure this today is I'm going to do a few minutes on the front end just to kind of baseline everybody on what assumable mortgages are, kind of how they work, and how we kind of started this initiative or this endeavor, and then we're going to transition into the live demo, demo of the platform itself. So without further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we'll kick this thing off. All right, Bethany, can you give me a thumbs up? We're sharing? Awesome. All right, so you're on the right. If you're here to see, listen and learn about assumable mortgages, you're in the right meeting. So, so welcome everybody. My name is Mike. Just to give you a little bit of background of myself and just kind of get everybody, oriented to who you're actually speaking to today. My name is Mike. I've been in real estate for 15 years. I was prior to my real estate career, actually during the time I was in real estate, I was also a serving Marine. I served for 20 years in the Marine Corps. And I am married to the wonderful Bethany, who is on the call with us today. Bethany is my teammate and business partner, and also an active duty licensed real estate team. She's been doing this for about 10 years with me, and also came over from government service in Marine Corps acquisitions community, where she worked for about 10 years. Together, we've been running a team. We call ourselves the Fidelis Property Group team, Fidelis Property Group. We're based in the Northern Virginia, DC market, and we are ranked top 1% team of all teams nationwide. So very proud of that. And the point of this really is just to showcase that, we are agents too. And so what we're talking about is we're living and breathing the same problem sets that you guys are. And we wanted to share something that we're really passionate about and really help others with the success that we've been able to achieve with this tool. So those of you who have been in the real estate business for at least 2 years or longer certainly remember the good old days, we call them. Really, it's like that 2021 post-pandemic era where interest rates were so low and everybody was flocking to open houses, multiple offers on every home. Here's a kind of an example of an open house where people are lined up out the block. And really what I want to just quickly touch on is that graphic on the left, which points out the existing home sales for the last 15 years. And the key to this slide is really that in 2021, we saw the most number of homes sold in the United States that year leading up to 2021. And then we saw this precipitous drop in existing home sales. And what I wanted to point out as I looked at this data myself, and I know much of this data is familiar with you on the call here, especially those that have been in real estate for a long period of time, know that existing home sales and really home sales, home transactions overall are highly correlated to interest rates. And so that chart here on the left just makes it clear that we see interest rates drop. And as they bottomed out in 2021, we saw home sales peak. So as home sales peak, interest rates bottomed. And then, of course, what happened since, right? Since 2022 and beyond, we saw those existing home sales really drop off. And many of us are kind of working through that in our businesses right now is how do we make sense of the current market that we find ourselves in as a result of the higher interest rates. So rates start to rise 2022 through 23 and 24, right? As we all know, the last 2 years, all of us have seen the impact it has had on buyer demand. Buyers are anxious about securing new mortgages. I think right now, maybe 6.5%, depending on what lender you work with. I've seen rates anywhere from 6.25% to maybe as high as 6.5% or 6.75% rates, which is not very exciting to buyers. And so you have this dynamic where you have buyers in this wait and see mode where they're looking and hoping perhaps for interest rates to drop. And then on the other side of that, you have sellers, existing homeowners, who don't want to move or maybe can't move because they don't want to give up their existing low interest rate to purchase their next house at that 6.5% rate that we see today. And so this is really causing that issue with the interest with market with home buyers and home sellers, where we're not seeing that demand, we're not seeing that production, the traffic that we typically have seen in years past. So despite higher rates, right, despite what we just discussed and the impact that higher rates has had on buyer demand, my team, Bethany and myself, we've actually closed 25% more homes this year than we did in 2021 or actually any year prior. We're actually having a record year in sales this year. And what we've been able to do is disconnect interest rates from buyer demand. And so we're able to offer buyers an opportunity to buy homes without having that connective, that mental hurdle of having that temper that buyer demand by offering them something that very few agents are able to do. And we're going to talk about how we did that in this call. Just the baseline, what that leverage revolves around. As a military veteran, right, as I mentioned, I am a 20-year career Marine, but through that knowledge of being familiar with VA loans and veterans benefits, I learned a couple of years ago that there was an element of VA loans that allows a buyer to assume or take over an existing mortgage. And many of you are familiar with the term assumable mortgage or assuming a mortgage. And this is not just limited to FHA or to VA loans. This is also available to every government-backed mortgage. So it's VA, FHA, and USDA loans. What's really cool is that about 5 to 10%, depending on the market, and certainly in the Vegas market, about 10% of all listings that come up for sale have an assumable mortgage. So, you know, there's a lot of misnomers or misunderstanding that they're so few and far between or very difficult to find. And in some cases, they are difficult to find. But that's really what we're going to talk about today is how can you find them? But they do exist, and about 10% of listings do have an assumable mortgage. But the challenge is that only about 15% of assumable listings are advertised as being assumable. So the vast majority of homes that ever come up for sale with a low rate assumable mortgage are never advertised as having that low rate assumable mortgage. So most people, especially a lot of consumers out there, or even agents that are doing keyword search to find these properties, are not able to do them because the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of listing agents don't actually advertise them as having those assumable mortgages. So I just wanted to take a quick second and just demonstrate how the numbers work. And I use an example property here with two ways to purchase a home, new mortgage versus an assuming a mortgage. And we're just going to go with a 10% down payment. Of course, down payments can vary, but just to kind of make the point here, you have a 7% interest rate on a new mortgage, which isn't that far off from current rates today, versus finding a buyer, that same buyer, an interest rate with say 2.5%. And there are many homes out there that have that sub 3% interest rate. And what's really cool on this notional $800,000 home is the principal and interest payment on that new mortgage with that 10% down with a 7% interest rate is just under $4,800 a month. Relative to that same property, assuming that loan is $2,845 principal and interest. And so what this represents is, in this case, about $1,900 a month, which is thousands and thousands of dollars per year. I mean, you could, the language that I use when I demonstrate the savings to a prospective buyer is, you know, effectively, I can help you achieve a, you know, $20,000 or $25,000 a year pay raise by at least exploring this idea or exploring the opportunity of pursuing an assumable mortgage. Now, let's be clear, assumable mortgages aren't necessarily for everybody. I mean, they do have certain requirements, and there are certain aspects of them which make them sometimes more challenging than a regular purchase. However, the point is that we are having this conversation with our buyers and walking them through this process and ultimately taking them on this journey and showcasing that it is possible, at least your idea or the help that you're offering them is to tell them whether or not it's possible for them, but giving them the opportunity and telling them that it exists and educating them along the way. And through that, you are building that rapport, building that trust. You're differentiating yourself from other agents. I want to just take a quick pause and just different and show you what the differences are between the two most common types of assumable loans. And those are VA and FHA. And there's a misnomer out there that you have to be a veteran to assume a VA mortgage. And the fact of the matter is that's not accurate. You don't have to be a veteran. It is helpful for a buyer to have their own veterans benefits, their own we call it VA entitlement. And it is definitely helpful because it does open up another avenue or another opportunity for buyers to uh, pursue a VA assumable mortgage. But there are many, many, many buyers out there, many more buyers out there that are non-veterans that could assume a VA loan. And we're going to talk about that today in greater detail once I do the live demo. The key that I wanted to point out here is that one of the benefits of a VA assumable mortgage is that it doesn't always require it to be a primary residence. So what that does is it opens up the opportunity for any investors or people looking to buy second homes or as a rental property. You can do that with a VA assumable mortgage because there is, depending on how the deal is structured, the VA assumptions can be pursued as investment properties without having any veterans benefits, without the buyer having their own veterans benefits. So we're going to just move on real quick. I want to just highlight, how did we find these properties, or how does this work, right? Tell me a little bit more about AssumeList in general. And so when I first had this idea 2 years ago to develop a platform, I initially thought to myself, well, surely this data exists, right? Somebody has already curated up a list of properties that have these government-backed loans on these listings. And so I went through various MLSs. I contacted the nation's largest MLS companies. I contacted the nation's largest data aggregators, CoreLogic being one of them. I reached out to Department of Veteran Affairs. As a veteran myself, I just called their VA hotline. I reached out to HUD and I said, hey, FHA loans, can I get a list of properties that have FHA mortgages that I can share with my clients? I contacted county courthouses. I contacted title companies. And no matter where I turned, I kept drawing up a blank responses. Like nobody either had the data or was willing to share the data with me. And so what I realized was, well, if I can't find it as an experienced, licensed real estate agent, surely nobody is going to be able to easily find this data. And really, that's what the impetus was to develop the AssumeList platform. It's really to solve this problem: is where can somebody go, an agent go, to search for properties that have these really low interest rate assumable mortgages, search for them at scale, and find properties in seconds that they can use to share with clients and grow a business around this idea of disconnecting interest rates from buyer demand. So AssumeList, we made it super simple interface so that anybody, you don't have to learn a new platform. It's very intuitive. And as I mentioned earlier, agents now have a tool to demonstrate immediate value to clients, which, like I said, not everybody is going to be able to use this to close on a property, but at least you can have conversations and incentivize and entice prospective leads and convert them into clients. So just wanted to, as we transition to the live demo, I just wanted to showcase a couple quotes from existing agents or AssumeList subscribers. Many of them, various parts around the country, using it at a high level, making a difference in their business every day. AssumeList makes me look like a superhero. It gives me a competitive edge. If you're working with buyers, you're crazy not to use it. So these are actual people that I only met through AssumeList that reached out to me or had subscribed and are now using this platform at a high level. And then the last thing I'll just kind of point out here is we're going to talk through the platform itself. And we're also I want to make sure that as you think about how you would use this within your own business today, is that it's not just here you go and good luck, make the best of it. It's that there is an entire cadre of material and training that comes with it. I mean, you're basically buying your way into a forum, a group, a network that provides training opportunities. We have a full suite of articles, a constantly growing suite of articles that talks about rules changes and policy updates, what the costs are, where the savings are, what are the key points that buyers need to be aware of, what are key points that sellers need to be aware of. All this information is available in addition to, of course, email and chat support that we make ourselves available to support you in your business. So I'm going to pause right here. I'm going to transition to the live demo. And as I do that, I want to introduce a very special guest we have today, Nora Simpson. Nora is a business coach that is well known within real estate circles. Many of you, if you're familiar with the Ops Boss community, she gets invited to a lot of these webinars and sessions to really help people understand kind of the neuroscience of sales approach to how to use a tool like this, or how you could shape the language around assumable mortgages to help grow your business. So I'm going to invite Nora just to say a few words as I transition.
Awesome. Can you spotlight me, Mike, while I say my words?
Absolutely. Yep. Let's do it.
So, hi, everybody. My name is Nora Simpson, and I've been teaching real estate agents and real estate teams for 15 years. I use a neuroscience of sales methodology that I created. I've worked with over 100 real estate teams and helped many of them double and even triple their revenue and their closed deals within about 6 to 12 months. And the reason that I'm so excited about AssumeList is that I have 3 clients right now that are using AssumeList, and talk about turbocharge. Like when I say to my clients, hey, now that you have this 2.5% interest rate or 3% interest rate available on 60 different homes in your favorite neighborhood, do you want to call everybody you've ever met to let them know that you have access to this? And where like usually I'm working with agents and it takes 3 months, 6 months to really get them off the ground, I've seen AssumeList create just turbocharge results because Mike is so great. First of all, Mike and Bethany are so great with all the subscribers. They're so supportive. They're always answering questions. They're here to help people really expand their business. But whether there's an assumable buyer in your Rolodex or not, the fact that you have access to this magical time machine experience is so special. It's such a great reason to reach out to your whole client base and your whole referral base that, people are seeing massive upticks from both the usage of the platform and just talking about the ability to find these assumable listings. So I just wanted to vote awesome for AssumeList, and thanks for letting me say my piece.
Thanks, Nora. I really appreciate that. All right, I'm going to share my screen, and this is where I really am looking for some interaction. And so as I go through the live demo, please be encouraged to ask questions. Just drop them into the chat, and you'll see Bethany will be there to respond questions. And certainly we'll maybe call some out, and we can even do a deep dive on some of these questions. I really want to ensure that everybody leaves here with their questions answered. So I'm going to just do a screen share here again, and we're going to just go through a quick demo of the platform itself. So if you're on this, if you can see my screen now and you go to the AssumeList.com website, you're on the right page. This is our homepage, and you can see we've been featured in a number of different media outlets around the country. We are constantly growing. I'm going to talk you through real quick on our areas served page. Right on our homepage here, there's a link that you can see all the locations in which we service. So I have the Nevada market pulled up right now. And of course, you can see what, we cover the entirety of Clark County. But if you really wanted to see some of the other states and the other locations that we service, you have access to all of this as a AssumeList subscriber. We do not limit your search capability based on your home market. So I just wanted to point that out. Once you log in, this is the dashboard. And I just wanted to point out, I'm logged into Bethany's account, just happens to be who I'm logged in right now. So this is just a standard agent account that you would look very similar for your account. And you'll notice right away we have a map of the United States with all the states in which we service right now. And you'll see that we have about 3.4 million total properties searchable on our website. We have the largest database of assumable mortgages nationwide that is connected to a live MLS feed. So every single one of these properties, if they were to come up for sale, would be listed for sale and displayed in their respective status, active status, under contract, etc., on AssumeList. What's really cool is as you click on one of these states, so for example, if I click on Nevada, we can see how many assumable homes exist within at least those counties that I mentioned are highlighted on the previous slide. And also the breakout of what it looks like between each of the different statuses. So we can see how many homes in active status right now in those 3 or 4 counties in southern Nevada. Down below, we have different data trends, what the assumable mortgage trend line looks like. So how much inventory exists over time. And we can see very clearly that actually assumable mortgage inventory has gone up week over week over week, dating back to spring of 23 or 24 rather, when we first started reporting this data. And then down below, we have a chart that just goes, if you really wanted to see the totality of all the assumable homes by state, this really kind of puts into perspective where the concentration of assumable mortgages are. And you can even break them out based on FHA, VA, USDA. And I won't bore you. There's some other really cool stuff down below. But for the focus of the next few minutes, I really wanted to talk to you about the actual search platform itself. And what I usually start off by saying, and this was an agent who called me up a week ago. I can't remember, I think he was in Southern California. He said, Mike, I've been a Assuma subscriber for about 2 weeks right now. And he's like, the way I envision or the way I frame this platform for myself and how the language I use for my clients is, he says, this is a time machine. And I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I never thought about that. He said, Mike, this is a time machine because I'm selling homes with sub 3% interest rates. He's like, you can't do that anymore. I'm actually turning back the clock 3 years and I'm helping buyers buy homes with 2.75, 2.5, 3% interest rates. He's like, this is unbelievable. And so I like, wow, that's pretty powerful. So I'm stealing that agent's line and welcoming you to your time machine. So this is the search platform. At the very top, you'll notice very standard, search bar and filters. And I'm not going to spend too much time going through them. They're very intuitive. But what I will do is we're just going to type in Las Vegas, just to give you a perspective of what it is that it looks like when you run a search. Now, what I want to point out is you can search based on state. You can look at everything based on an entire state. You can search by city, which is what we're about to do. You can specify a county, a zip code. You can type in a specific neighborhood. You can even type in a specific MLS ID number or listing an address and just a partial address, and it will search for anything based on keyword. So right now it's looking for everything with Las Vegas. Of course, we're going to click on city. So as we do that, it's going to automatically dynamically update the Google map and show us every single assumable home that's listed on the MLS for sale right now in Las Vegas. And right now there's 865 properties. Some of them, of course, as you can see in red, are under contract. Others are in green, which are active. Obviously, if we're working with a new client, we're going to just only display active properties. So I'm going to click on the status button here, and I'm going to filter on active properties. And immediately we're going to see just in 2 seconds flat, we were able to identify here's 521 assumable homes in Las Vegas, and every single property on this website, every single one in our database has an assumable mortgage with an interest rate of less than 5%. So these are all desirable assumable homes. And the difference between AssumeList and there's some other platforms out there that do similar work is they don't differentiate and don't automatically filter out desirable properties from undesirable. When I say undesirable, just because a home has an assumable mortgage with a 6.25% or 6.5% interest rate nobody really cares. Nobody cares that it has a VA loan or FHA loan with a 6.25. I mean, people want to get a home with a 3, 2.75, 3.25, right? Those really juicy low interest rates, and that's what we focus on. Every single one of our homes will have a low interest rate mortgage. What's really powerful is you can not only search by price, but you can search by mortgage payment. So if you have a client that says, hey, Mike, I really want to keep my mortgage payment below X, you can actually set a filter and only display homes that have a mortgage payment below that number. The other really powerful tool, which is the one I use most often, is the down payment filter. So we can actually set a filter based on the amount of cash a buyer has for that down payment, and then only view those homes that have a down payment of a certain number based on what that respective buyer may have. Let's do a very focused search. I want to show you what a actual property looks like. And a agent called me up yesterday in the 89131 zip code, which I know is in north end of Las Vegas. And I just want to give you a perspective. I just type in a zip code, which again, you can search by zip code. We're immediately presented with a list of 23 active listings, assumable mortgages, in just this one zip code that have an assumable mortgage active on the market with an interest rate of under 5%. And I'm going to just do on the top right here, I'm going to sort by down payment. And I want everybody just to know how powerful that is, because now I can actually not only filter by down payment, but I can actually sort by down payment. And what's really cool here is now we can see all their down payments right on the display as we go through every single one of these homes. And let's just open up one of these homes here. I'm going to just randomly choose one here on Dodds Canyon Street, just to give you an idea of what the data looks like as you view it. And as you'll know, it pulls in all of the photos, right? So we get the photos from the listing. We see that's active listing, active status. It's 35 days on market. We have the address, the list price, and right next to the list price, we see the down payment. So this home has about a $76,000 down payment. This is quite accurate. I would say plus or minus really within 1 to 2% of the actual down payment that's required in 99% of cases. Obviously, if a seller, a homeowner made a lump sum payment at some point recently, we may not know that, but generally speaking, you can rely on this number. The loan type, FHA, it has an interest rate of 2.65%. Again, an estimate, but close. We usually plus or minus 0.25%. We have the loan balance and we have the mortgage payment. So what is the current mortgage payment this home, the current owners are currently paying? What's really cool is, since we know when the home was purchased, it was purchased September of 2021, we actually run the reverse math and we know that the remaining loan term on that mortgage is 26 years and 11 months. So whoever is buying this home, if they were to assume this mortgage, they're assuming approximately 27-year remaining mortgage. They're not buying a home with a 30-year mortgage, right? The first 3 years of interest payments have already been paid. So that's another really cool thing, is we actually show you what the remaining mortgage term is. And then all of the other details you would expect to see: beds, baths, square footage, right, year built, etc. The description from the listing itself. So in this case, this particular agent, as we talked about earlier, did not include any comments that this home has a really low interest rate mortgage. First thing I would have done if this were my listing was all caps, FHA assumable mortgage, 2.65% interest rate, to incentivize prospective buyers to come see this home. And then we have other features here going down. If it had a price reduction, we capture the price reduction. Schools, we pull that from grade schools, and any walkability, walk score, if you're familiar with the walk score. So just basic overview of what the property would look like to you. Now, what I want to show you is, let's say you have this property you found for a client, and you wanted to share it with that client. So what we have is this button here. It's you can save comments, or you can save comments. You can save the listing itself, or you can share it. And what we want to do here is we do want to share this home, and what we're going to do is
Mike,
yeah, go
quick
ahead.
question. So I noticed that Yvonne asked a really interesting question in the chat, which was, what's the difference between, I feel like you're answering it and I want to make sure she realizes this is one of the answers. Your answer, like, what's the difference between like the consumer facing version and the agent facing version? In
Yeah,
the agent facing version, you can share this link with your buyers, with your potential clients, right? Can consumers do that? Can consumers share a link like this?
they cannot. And what I'm going to show you right now is what it looks like when you share a link as an agent. We're going to copy this link to a clipboard, and basically what you would do is just open up an email or open up your CRM, and you're going to send that client an email, and in that email you're going to drop this link, paste this link in there so that they can click on it. When that client opens up that email, they're going to see, or when they click on this link in that email you just send them, they're going to see that same listing, but that listing is now branded to you. So it's going to have, again, I'm logged into Bethany's account, but it's going to have your name at the top, your team name, your team logo or your brokerage logo, your choice, your photo, your contact information, email address, phone number. And now when that client receives this, they're going to be, wow, this is awesome. I have all this data that I never seen before, but they're receiving this from you. This is a branded experience that you are providing that client to really help them through their home purchase. And you're the only one providing this information. This is not something they would be able to see on their own. To your question, consumer accounts can share properties, I think up to a certain number, but they do not get the branded experience. There's no credit being provided. There's no way for them to see that it came from a agent, or in this case, that you are providing this value. The other thing that agent accounts have let me rephrase. The other capability that are limited to only agent accounts is the ability to run an off-market search. And so consumer accounts cannot search properties off market. So we just found 23 homes that are on market here in this one zip code. Let's just run that same search off market. And this is where the power of the agent account really comes into its own. Is that you, say, for example, have a client who wants to buy in a specific neighborhood, and there's no homes for sale or no assumable mortgages for sale in that neighborhood. You can run an off-market search, and you can identify properties that have assumable mortgages in an off-market capacity. And right now we can see that there's over 2,400 assumable homes just in that one zip code, that same zip code that we just searched before. It's 89131. And then we can run the same filters. So we can run, say you've got a buyer, they're limited to $100,000 cash available. So we want to set that price point. And they want to keep their mortgage payment, and I'm not sure how much mortgage payments are. Let's just say let's do under $2,500 a month. And they want at least a 4-bedroom home, right? And you can filter. And all of a sudden you find yourselves with, maybe you want to search for just this one area of the community. Maybe it's this location. You can draw like a little custom polygon, right? A map. And now all of a sudden you've narrowed down to these off-market properties that have assumable mortgages that match your client's criteria. And what we can do is now we can open up one of these off-market properties. And if there's photos that are available from the MLS, we'll pull those photos in from the previous listing. Remember, these homes are actually not for sale. This is a photo from the previous listing. In this case, it was purchased back in April of 2022. But all the same data is available. This one has a really low interest rate, primarily because they just bought it so recently. And also, since it was April of 2022, we can see here in this case, it has a little bit of a higher interest rate because interest rates had started going up. But the point is, now we have a means to search for off-market properties. And the way we run the down payment filter is we run an automated valuation tool that calculates the fair market value of the home, and we use that against the loan balance. And then we determine approximately what the down payment would be if you were to put an offer on it.
And just for clarity, Mike, the ability to search for off-market homes as part of the agent account does not cost anything additional, correct? It is included in the agent account automatically.
That's correct. Yes, everything that I'm demonstrating today is all inclusive of a agent account. Nothing is separate or addition.
And
Um,
can home buyers look for off-market properties, Mike?
They cannot. They cannot. That is exclusively available for agents only. I definitely want to ensure that agents have value and can demonstrate value that consumers cannot find these properties on their own. So you don't have to worry about, you know, cannibalization, where you have consumers that are trying to subscribe and getting access to the same information. They won't have access to it. The other thing that they won't have access to that agents do is the skip tracing module. So for example, let's just say you have a buyer who is interested in buying in this neighborhood and you found a home or several homes that you think would be a great fit. One thing that you could do is you can reach out to these homeowners directly by running a skip tracing query. And so you click this button here, and it's actually pulling a skip trace query, and it's going to pull in whatever information we can about this particular homeowner. In this case, it looks like this is actually a family trust that owns this, and it's a vacant, it's absentee owner. So the owner of the home lives at a different address than the property itself. Which is probably why we have a little bit of limited information. There's at least a phone number here. We don't have an email address, but at least there's a phone number on file or on record, so that a point of contact that you can call if you really wanted to have a conversation about this property. And, you know, we can go through property after property. As I mentioned, you know, some of these homes, for example, don't have photos. And that's really just based on the fact that the MLS doesn't necessarily store photos for homes after a certain period of time, or maybe how it was recorded. Sometimes they purge records, but you can still pull up all the same, right? The fact that this is now, this is not an actively listed home. In fact, we say this is the last sold price, but you can run these skip tracing queries and you can pull up homeowner information, and you can drop this information, copy to a clipboard, paste it into a CRM, and you can run marketing campaigns against a select few of homeowners in a specific neighborhood or location, or contact them. I will caveat though, we do tell you whether they are on the DNC, the do not call list. And I've had different conversations with different brokers around the country. So when I say this, definitely confer with your broker. But I've been informed that in some cases, if you were to contact a homeowner on behalf of an existing client, so you're representing a buyer and you are contacting that homeowner to present an offer, or inquire about the idea of presenting an offer, you're not soliciting services. You're not trying to solicit a listing. You're acting on behalf of your buyer client. And many brokers, I've been told, are okay with the contacting through a phone number. But again, contact your broker to verify that. But I've been informed that that is definitely a possible way to reach out to homeowners using phone numbers, even if they're on the DNC.
And Mike, how much skip tracing a capability do agents get per month with the platform?
So free with your account, just automatically, you always get at least 10 per month, and you can run 10 per month. There is the ability, and I can show you on the pricing page. The pricing page does specify we do offer additional skip tracing. They're very inexpensive. For 50 additional credits for $10, 120 credits for $20. Each time you run an inquiry, it's a 1 credit cost. And this is predicated on, we actually pay for each pull, each skip trace query. I think we pay like 12 or 13 cents to our provider. So initially we had it unlimited, and then, you know, we always have the one bad apple in the group and ran a couple thousand skip tracing queries, and we had this massive bill from our provider. So we had to apply some limits, but we do provide a means to give you as many as you need for a small fee.
So Mike, when you said there's 10, so each credit is 1 search?
Each credit is 1 search. Yep. So they get 10 per month. If they want more, there's for a small fee, they can run it. They can get as many as they want. It's unlimited for a small fee.
Got it.
And Mike, we had another comment from Yvonne. It's just such a good one. I want to point it out. She said, we are assuming with these homes that the owner and agent are actually open in the first place, so the loan being assumed with, which many will not. be open to that. And I love this comment because she's absolutely right. And in the way I think about this, like when I'm searching for my buyers, whether it's an assumable loan search or a regular home search, there's always going to be some percentage of those homes that won't be a good fit for them, right? And it's hard for us to know when we're just searching for whatever reason. Like sometimes the photos are really wonky, or sometimes like the photos are great, but it doesn't show us that the backyard has this like really steep slope and they can't work with that. And so I think whenever we're running a search, yeah, it's always possible that some percentage of those won't be a fit. And in this case, maybe it's because the owner, needs a 3-week closing and can't support an assumable loan or whatever the case may be. But the goal of any search that we do, right, is to engage our clients, keep them involved in the home search, and show them that we are working to provide value for them and keeping them top of our minds, so they know we're thinking about them and we're trying to help them achieve their goals. And that's what we're here to do at AssumeList as well, is to keep you top of mind and help you to engage those buyers that might be sitting out the search because they're scared of those interest rates.
Awesome.
Mike, did I miss the saved search? I know you showed the branded, like.
Yeah. I was just wanted to see if there's any other questions, but yeah, I'll do a quick overview of that here. So when we go back to the, let's just do a live MLS search here, and we'll just type in that same zip code just because I happen to have it memorized. And we've set our parameters. Let's just say a down payment of $100,000. We want to, minimum, let's say 4-bedroom home. Whatever single family homes, you can set all your criteria. And then let's just say we want to be able to inform our client automatically, have them receive automatic notifications whenever a property that matches their search criteria comes up for sale. So we set the parameters, we hit save search, and we type in the name of the client name or whatever we want to call the search itself. And then we can select how often we want the emails to go out. Instant, meaning that anytime a property that matches that client's search criteria hits the MLS, they will immediately receive an email from AssumeList, but it's, from you, branded, right? Branded from you to them once a day, once a week. So depending on what their timeline may be, or you can turn it off. What's really cool is that you can also set flags based on informing them if there's a price reduction for any home that matches their search criteria, or if there's any status changes. So if a home is under contract and it happens to come back to active status, you can also allow them to receive those notifications as well. And you can add in as many people as you want to the recipient list. This is where you would enter their email address. You could add husband and wife, you can add different people, one person, multiple people. That's all fair game. And I had a agent actually ask for this feature a few weeks ago, where they have so many clients that's searching for assumable homes. By default, the system will not only send the client those listings when they come up for sale, but the agent also gets them, so that you're receiving the same notification. And in this particular case, the agent's like, hey, Mike, I've got 10 saved searches going. My email is getting inundated with all these assumable homes hitting the market. Is there any way to shut it off so that only they're getting it and I'm not? And so we created this little toggle here to disable the agent notification if you wanted to do so. The client will of course still receive them. And so this is a really cool way to keep your agents engaged, and they're still receiving that same branded experience from you as you're helping them find a home. Great question. Any other questions? I guess we'll wrap up. We did talk really quickly about the pricing. So AssumeList, we offer.
I think there was one more question from Dennis.
Yep.
Will it show the mortgage company to contact? I wasn't quite sure. I figured you would know more about that.
No. So the process, once the home is listed for sale and you put an offer in, you get the home under contract. What happens after that is really the skill set of the agent to understand the assumable mortgage process. We don't So the reason we can't tell you who the servicer is because that's not recorded anywhere. When a home is actually purchased and recorded in the the county courthouse, the county land records, it's only the lender who originated that loan is recorded. It's not the servicer who services the loan. So that information is actually not saved or stored or recorded or displayed anywhere. You will only know who the originator is. But as you know, loans get sold to different servicers over time, and that is not displayed. There's no way for us to capture that or make that aware. Make that the agent aware of that information. What I typically do, and what we'll talk through with training, is we talk through what the process is like and how you maximize the, or I'm sorry, how you improve the timeline or shorten the time frame of approval once you get a home under contract. And we talk through all that process through training. We have different courses and materials and articles that we help you understand. A lot of people have a lot of misnomers about how the assumable process works. What is the timeline? What is the process? What are the rules? How does entitlement work? All of that is actually too far to get into some of the details in this call, but we do offer that as part of the training to our subscribers.
Mike, we had a good question from Anastasia. How is the down payment calculated again?
So down payment is calculated as the difference between the loan balance. And so let me just pull up a property here. So it's the difference between the loan balance and the sales price. So I'll just pull up this property and we'll get a quick overview in real time. Actually, I think I already have a property. Do I have one that's already open? Off market here, active. Here we go. So the loan balance on this home is about $324,000, and the sales price is about $400K. So you are always assuming your client is always assuming the mortgage with the current loan balance. You cannot change that. You can't add to it, right? Anytime you modify the loan, it's called a refinance. And refinancing the loan, of course, would cause them to lose that low interest rate. So what we do is we run that calculation. One, we know the loan balance, and we run that calculation for you. And so we we inform you that this property has that, in this case, a $76,000 down payment. And that now allows us to use the search tool to filter based on down payment, right? Because every buyer will have a different cash availability. And one thing we didn't talk about in this call, but we do offer this in training, is we have access to lenders who specialize in very specific second mortgage products with very low interest rates if you have a buyer who has some cash for down payment but may not have all of it. And so there's some really cool programs now that just recently came around that didn't exist 6 months ago that help close that gap whenever we have clients we're working with that may not have enough cash for the full down payment, but they have enough to at least cover a portion, usually about 10% of the purchase price, and then they can finance the rest if they need to.
Do agents have access to the lenders that offer those types of products with the platform?
Absolutely. Yep. All of our Assumo subscribers, I connect them with. I've hand curated a list of lenders who specialize in assumable mortgages, specifically lenders who can issue pre-approval letters who are designed for interest rates from assumable mortgages. So normally, when you get a client a pre-approval letter, that lender is going to give them their purchase price based on the current interest rates. 6.5%, whatever they can buy, whatever their purchasing power is with 6.5%. The lender I work with will actually run a calculation for a specific home and say, oh, that home has a 2.65% rate. So at a 2.65% rate, here's your buying power. You may qualify for another $200,000 purchase price if you can get a home at that rate. I also have a lender, as I mentioned, that specializes in second mortgage products. And as low as 8% interest rate on a purchase HELOC. It's actually a home equity line of credit that's taken out at the time of purchase. So the buyer is actually pulling that equity out at the time of purchase. Really, really powerful tool to help close that gap for prospective buyers who need the cash assistance.
Another question, Mike, this one's from Catherine. Are these loans assumable by owner, occupants, and investors alike?
So, and that we talked about this a little earlier. Great question. So if it's an FHA loan, FHA properties must be owner occupied. So any buyer can assume them. There's no entitlement related question. If you have a buyer who wants to assume an FHA mortgage, great. No title question. It does require that buyer to move into the home within 60 days of settlement. For VA loans, without getting too far into the weeds here, but this particular home here is a VA mortgage. Their entitlement does come into play. If the seller leaves their entitlement, the buyer can purchase it as an investment property, and there is no ownership occupancy requirement that can be purchased as an investment property. And in fact, I've got many, many investors that I'm working with around the country that are using AssumeList to find investment homes that they can purchase, because we can use it and actually acquire homes with really low interest rates for investors, because there's no ownership occupancy, there's no primary residence requirement that comes into play. So another really powerful tool. And of course, the numbers just make so much more sense, right? At 2.6% interest rate, the ability to cash flow a home with that interest rate is so much easier than buying it, with a 6.5% or 7% interest rate from an investor standpoint.
Another great question from Catherine. Mike, could a purchase HELOC be used by investors?
That is a really good question. I have not, I don't know. That's a question for my lender. I don't know if that requires to do the purchase HELOC, if it has to be a primary residence or not. I don't know the answer to that. I think what we'll do, Catherine, is we'll get that question answered, and we'll let you know.
It looks like Pete had come on camera for a bit, and I wondered if he wanted to ask a question. Did you want to unmute Pete and ask your question?
Oh, maybe we lost him. Okay,
Actually, one more question for you, Mike.
Yeah.
With an assumable FHA loan, does the seller still have a liability for the loan?
No, zero. So with all assumptions, that's a great misnomer. With all assumptions, anytime the buyer assumes the mortgage, both the title, so ownership of the property, and the loan itself, the seller is completely disconnected. So there's no liability from that mortgage, both VA and FHA. So if the new buyers, for example, decide to fall behind on their mortgage payments, there is no connection back to the seller. The seller's credit doesn't get hurt. They're not obligated to resume taking payments. The confusion that a lot of agents have out there, and you may be familiar with the term subject to. So this is not a subject to. This is a true purchase. Just like anybody else who buys a home, when the buyer purchases that home, the loan is fully transferred to the buyer's name. The title of the property is fully transferred to the buyer's name. So the seller has no connection back to that property unless they opt to leave their VA benefits, their entitlement tied to it, to allow a non-veteran buyer or an investor to assume that mortgage. That would be the only thing that a seller would have left, but there is no financial ties to that veteran's benefits.
Mike, I wanted to just say one thing about the consumer versus agent difference, if that's okay.
Please.
So when I first watched my clients using AssumeList, I was like, why is AssumeList even like letting buyers have access to this data? Like, this should be something really special that only agents have, so that agents can like have the big secret. And then I realized that when home buyers are subscribers to AssumeList, they inevitably need help from agents. And I realized that part of what Mike and Bethany do is they get inquiries from home buyers, whether those people have subscribed or not, saying, hey, I live in Las Vegas and I'm really interested in this property, but I really don't know much about assumable mortgages. Who should I be working with? And I've watched Mike and Bethany send my clients multiple referrals and other people multiple referrals. So the whole reason that consumer option exists is to help consumers get excited and educated about assumable mortgages. And then those consumers end up working with Mike and Bethany's AssumeList subscriber agents, which I think is so cool.
Exactly. We're approaching an hour, so we're going to wrap this up. Barring any questions, I do want to just close out with a couple things. First, thank you everybody for attending. Hopefully this was helpful. We you know, I do want to just point out as we, you know, first off, anybody who wants to join right now, I'm more than happy to stay on this call. I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to stay on and help anybody who just wants to get onboarded with AssumeList, and we can even run some mock-up searches for a specific client if you're interested in. But more importantly, what I wanted to point out is that the details around how to be successful in assumptions is more than just the search platform. It's the entire package, right? About the rules. It's about how to have those conversations with your clients. It's how to navigate the search patterns to maximize finding those homes that are the best fit for your clients. The other cool thing is there's a lot of sellers out there. You know, people often ask me, how do you use this for sellers? Well, we find that we have a lot of sellers who contact us and say, hey, I really need to move, but I don't want to give up my low interest rate. If you can find me a home, I've had this many times, a seller will say this, Mike, if you can find me a home with an interest rate commensurate with what I have today, something close to what I have today, I will buy a home with you, and I will help have you sell my current home. And about half of all the buyers that we work with through this tool, through this, you know, this niche capability, half of them will have a home to sell with us. And so most of our business is now double-sided transactions because they have a home to sell that they don't want to, they really want to sell, but they can't because of the interest rate that they're tied to. And so we help them solve that problem. And through that problem solving, we'll get double-sided deal out of it. The other thing I wanted to point out is I wanted to remind you that we do offer a slew of training. We have a slew of articles and other materials really to help you be successful. You know, my goal here and our goal is to ensure your success. We want to ensure that you understand how you can use and equip you with how you can use this tool to help your business grow, right? That's one of the most important things for us. So if you're ready to get started, let us know. We'd love to have you on board. We definitely want to ensure that you have the tools that you need to get to be successful with AssumeList from day one. And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop the recording right now, and we'll stay on for anybody who has any follow-on questions. So thanks, everybody.